Live from Studio A in PressCorps World Headquarters, this is Zero Dark PressCorps. It's a live, community-based call-in show, fielding your thoughts on and tales from the Foxhole War. So join the Discord right now through the link below, sign in through the call queue text channel, and hop in the voice lounge for a chance to share your story. Tonight's developer guest, Community Manager, KrazyFlyinChicken. And now, your host, 13-time winner of the Geoffrey Jennings Award for Excellence in Journalism, Geoffrey Jennings.
Welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. You know, I just realized I gotta fix that intro where it cuts. The music just cuts off. I did have an intro coming into that, but I gotta fix that. We got a lot to do here. But you know what? That's fine. It's the new year. I'm personally emotionally exhausted. Haven't quite fully recovered since 2020, but really early of December. But that's okay. We're here somehow. We're on time. I'm on time. At least somehow I'm on time. I mean, and we're gonna have a good show because KFC is here. Max, community manager Max, and well, he'll carry me through tonight. We'll see. The power of he's got his community and I've got my community, part of the larger Foxhole community, and together as two, I guess, pseudo community managers in our respective circles. I think you've got a couple more people in your Discord, however. I think.
Just a few, but I've got a whole team of 15 guys behind me, so it's not the same thing.
There you go.
What you've created here is amazing with what you've got.
Thank you. You said that you mentioned, we were talking before, you were on vacation. How long were you on vacation for? What was your? I envy the PTO.
Well, I mean, not really vacation, but more like the office was closed. Nobody wanted to work over the holidays, so yeah, I had a fantastic holiday vacation. But just give me 1 second. I'm just got to finish up this announcement. I missed my.
That's perfectly fine because I got to do some housekeeping stuff at the top of the show here. So. For those who don't know, welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. The intro kind of explained most of it, so I'll go over it. But we will take calls live on the air here after my opening questions. We have finally codified, written down a lot of the rules we have built up over the course of this show. A lot of it was kind of just de facto. But, realizing, we've got a lot here, and I'm just assuming things. I should write this down. So in our call queue channel, every time I duplicate that channel for future shows, I'll always post at the beginning there the procedures and whatnot. It's actually quite a bit, but once you get into the flow of it, it's not too bad. I just want to make clear that when you do submit into the call queue channel, please specifically state whether you are part of an outfit or not, whether you're part of a clan or regiment or not. So if you're typing there in the call queue and you want to put yourself in line, type "I'm in Swords of Morrow," which we'll get here in a couple calls here, or "I am not in any regiment." So I just want to make sure for all those. If you can hear this in the call queue, let the others know. Feel free to. You don't have to delete. You don't have to get yourself out of line. Just edit your message and get sorted out. I'm not going to be too strict on it where you got to, get into the back of the line. No. I just want to make it abundantly clear because I know some people want to, they forget to put in their nicknames and stuff. So just typing it in each time kind of helps us out and makes it easier on everyone. Additionally, if you got a written question, you can submit there into the call queue as well. Our drama rule, any discussion regarding accusations of cheating, bans, any complaints about moderators, specific moderators as opposed to just like suggestions about the moderator thing as a whole, we're going to drop those pretty quickly, or really just any community drama will be dropped, like, hey, someone shit posted on this Discord and then we retaliated by brigading their Discord, all that stuff. No one really cares. So just we'll drop those entirely on a case by case basis, but just be forewarned. And finally, our regimental rule. Again, a lot of stuff we haven't codified until now, but we finally got around to it. So we've actually opened it up a bit since before, because it used to be all right, one clan, one call per show, but we've opened it up. So regiments now have one call with more than one person per show, and you can stuff as many people as you want into that call. If you like, it's all dependent on you. You can work that out internally. Whoever was in that multi-person call, however, cannot be part of another call. Individuals within a regiment may have separate calls by themselves if they want to. However, just so you know, so that, and then a big group doesn't hijack the whole night, we will intersperse to break things up and get different points of view here. We will intersperse. We'll put in the next person that's not in a group, or at least in that group or regiment, in between. Again, this gets a little complicated. I have it all written down in the call queue channel. You can read it now, and I'll put it there every time that call queue is written down. We can get in there to now. So, but in any case, I think I'm going to write down here. So again, if you're writing in call queue, edit your message to say I am in X regiment, or I am not in a clan, or clan, whatever the nomenclature is. I am in X clan, or I am not in a clan, and that goes for everyone, including people in the PressCorps. So that includes you spots. But in any case, we're going to go off here into our opening questions for KFC. And Mark, the last show we had, Mark mentioned that he doesn't like it when I share the questions with the developers. I had done it to move things along so you can think about it beforehand, but he said he doesn't like it. So KFC, I'm going to just throw these at you willy-nilly. That's okay.
Oh, joy. Yeah, for sure.
Pretty much just simulating what happens in FOD every minute of every day of your life. So so there you go. That's fine.
So no comment.
No comment. There you go. But on December 26th, the server responsible for the Linn of Mercy crashed, kicking out everyone in the region and preventing players from re-entering for approximately 5 minutes. Actually, I think there was an incident where maybe like a couple of minutes afterwards it crashed again, just as part of getting it back up. So my first question is, as part of that, what was the cause of the crash, if you can put it in layman's terms, because I know there's a lot of back-end stuff there.
That's unfortunate. I honestly couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay. So this is why I like submitting beforehand. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Casey was investigating it today, actually. And one of the problems that we had with this was we didn't get a chance to look at it over the holidays because all of us were out of the office, but we did have somebody come in to actually put the server back up. So we figured we'll take a look at the logs once everybody's back in. And so we started taking a look at the logs, and there's from what I gather from the tech speak, because I don't program, from what I gather, there was an issue with the crash dumps as well. So there's something screwy with us having a difficult time isolating exactly what caused it. So our typical flow when that happens is we'll implement tools that will, instead of directly fixing the problem, we implement tools that help track it so that the next time it does happen, we can more easily identify it. And so I believe that's what they're working on right now, is those tools to find out what happened. But fortunately, we haven't had a repeat of it since that day. So fingers crossed it was just some weird hiccup. But regardless, Casey's looking into it.
So then, would you know what the causes were of past server crashes like that, where it took down the whole region? Because I know it's in the entire life cycle of Foxhole. Do you know what kind of causes that? Is it just the amount of people? Is it just a random hiccup that happens rarely? Do you have any?
Yeah, all sorts of things can be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all sorts of things can cause servers to crash. But I think there's also a rolling server restart that happens about once a week that we don't advertise. It just does happen. So I think that some players might see that and go, server crashed. If you've seen the server go down for like 2 seconds and then it comes back up, all you have to do is log back in. That's probably the rolling server restart. They typically happen late at night. So the Australian and Southeast Asian communities are probably more familiar with that one. But then the crashes that do happen that do result that result from either war service or from the servers the EC2 instances themselves. Those typically will just get investigated. Somebody will pull up the logs, see what happened, make a quick fix, and that's usually the last we ever hear of it. But these are the sort of things that are unfortunately not terribly sexy to talk about. That they don't
Right.
like. The service crashed 5% less this month. Like nobody really pays close attention to that outside of the
Until it
dev
happens.
teams, so. Exactly. So it's really difficult to say, especially when we make a lot of sweeping changes to things like Steam sockets. These things can crop up more often than previously. But again, it's one of those things that people don't really care a whole lot about. So we don't typically talk about it on things like the dev stream.
Sure. Now, for when they do happen, I believe vehicles are lost. They get kind of they disappear. But things like structures, like foxholes and trenches, they are retained, correct? I believe that's what we saw, at least with the Linn of Mercy.
Yep. So what happens is we do have server saves that typically happen at certain intervals that we can roll back to if necessary, just like most MMOs can do this. But fortunately for us, because we have so many different servers, we can roll back specific servers if we see major issues happening. Like I believe there was that one issue that happened over the holidays that our guy who came in took a look at and noticed that, when the server came back up, that one side seemed to have gotten in a little bit earlier, managed to get to the front line. All these vehicles were sitting there dormant, and they managed to steal a bunch. And then a quick rollback of, I think it was something really, really minor, something like 5 minutes, came in, and there were some losses, but we felt like that was the proper point to go back in where it would have the least amount of impact on the war, and we think that was the right call.
So it's kind of like a rapture state where vehicles, let's say it's on a rampage, it's going down the road, shooting at whatever target, and then server restart happens. The players evaporate, but everything else stays left behind.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, because that's what I had read too. Yeah.
Yeah, when the server does that rolling restart I was talking about, there is a 60-second warning. I think, again, you guys will be familiar with it if you've seen it happen. So they'll give you enough time to sort of like back out of combat, just enough to back out of combat, not enough to exploit it. Some people have complained that 60 seconds is not enough time, but we don't want to give you too much time. Otherwise, players are going to do something sneaky, might risk something knowing that the server's coming down, and that we just don't want to see happen. So 60 seconds you have to sort of get back out into safety. But when a server does literally crash like it did on the holidays, like I said, it's all a manual process for bringing it back up and double checking to make sure that that everything is as fair as possible once it does come back up.
Mm-hmm. And last point on this, in an event like that where people lose their vehicles, like let's say the other faction gets to it first and they blow it up, and then it's like, well, that's cheap. It would not have been lost if we had done it. What's the process for getting it back? Or if they can get it back, do they DM a mod? What's the process there?
We don't have one anymore. We used to have moderators go in and investigate individual claims of things that were lost due to bugs or server travel and that sort of thing. We found that there was just way too much nuance involved, especially, which is very clear from this incident where, a developer was literally having to roll back the whole server. You'll notice that not everybody agreed that that was the perfectly square time to do it. And that same instance happens every single time we try to replace something. If somebody lost a tank to some means and we replace it, and then another person comes in and it doesn't get replaced for whatever reason, there's all this screaming of bias. So at some point we just decided we're not going to replace them anymore. We are really sorry if there are bugs that involve or that do result in people losing vehicles or items. But rather than trying to solve the individual cases, we're just going to try to solve the bug itself. We are in early access, so that's not much of an excuse anymore since we are getting close to 1.0, but that's the goal, is trying to make sure that this doesn't happen or happens as seldom as possible.
So then moving on then to just kind of the HE meta that has developed since small arms no longer can damage structures. So what are your thoughts on that? What is kind of your assessment on what you've seen happen over the Christmas and holiday break in terms of how that panned out? Because it's been a few weeks. I forget what hotfix was that when. It's been several weeks now since since small arms was changed so that it can't damage structures anymore. What are your thoughts on that HE meta and just how it affects the flow of gameplay? Positive, negative?
I'm interested to hear what the community has to say about it. We've been reading all the threads. I've been reading all the threads about the HE meta, the smoke grenades, the early game problems with colonials not having enough anti-structure vehicles. It's been a lot of really good feedback there. Our personal position on it is it's pretty, like, at this point we're more interested in what how everybody else feels about it than we are in our own personal I guess decisions.
Yeah.
But that being said, what we are happy with is we like that, you know, bullets aren't destroying structures anymore. If we can, we'd like to address those problems that players are bringing up without having to bring back bullets destroying structures, because we've always felt that that was a little unrealistic and kind of silly. But we don't want to keep the HE meta. We want to see if there's maybe another way we can go that will satisfy everybody.
Because it is from a mechanical point of view. So I saw people trying to say, "Oh, just go back to when we could shoot down bunker bases," and I'm like, "Is that any better?" At the very least, that's less. So I'm kind of preempting anyone who's bringing that up tonight. Just kind of setting the table in that. Like, I don't know. For me personally, it seems kind of silly that you would want to exchange kind of a more exciting, run and rush to try and get to the bunker bases, and then instead replace it with standing 30 feet away from your trench, shooting at the other bunker base, waiting, just really kind of ganking it. And I don't think I used that term right, but just kind of just laying on it. There you go. And just doing that for 10 minutes, and then I don't know. It's logistics has been very upset at it, because they're looking at it going, wow, people are just really throwing themselves at these bunker bases now. But then at the same time, I'm going, well, maybe people just need to learn to not do that. That's kind of your choice and your problem. I don't know. It's difficult to look at, and we'll have to see what other people are looking at. I know personally it is exciting the first few times, and then after that, I stop rushing. But apparently people are saying, well, I kind of have to rush. I have to keep rushing in order to get the job done. And I'm wondering, do you? I don't know. At that point, I start flanking. Yeah. So you know what? If you have comments on it, please come in and bring it up, and we'll discuss it more. I know I'm already getting some good feedback on what I just said in the chat. So let's get in and we'll talk about it, because I don't want to just talk to chat all night. You know what? Last question here is. Just kind of a lore-related thing. Is there an equivalent to Christmas in the Foxhole universe, or is it just Christmas itself? Because I know in Team Fortress 2, it's Smissmas. In Star Wars, it's Life Day. And what is it in Foxhole?
If there is, I haven't seen it. I'm not fully brushed up on the lore the way Matt is. Matt will be able to give you guys a clearer answer to that one. The best place to reach him is in the lore channel. He typically hangs out there on the FOD.
Gotcha.
I couldn't answer.
I'll have to look first and see if anyone else has mentioned it. But yeah, I don't know, because then I guess Christmas would imply there's a Christ, and then if there's a Christ, then that means sorry, someone just posted a Life Day of the little Wookiee. I actually recently watched, we'll get to calls, but I recently watched the Star Wars Holiday Special, and it is garbage. It is absolute garbage.
It is so bad.
It's fun to meme about, don't get me wrong. And you got to watch it at least once for honestly the cringe. But it is 20 minutes of a family in the 70s, except they're covered in fur, just doing Christmas things. And,
I couldn't get through it. I watched 5 minutes of it, and it was so cringe. It was I couldn't even look. It wasn't even train wreck, like the Office kind of train wreck, to see what Michael does next kind of bad. It was just bad.
That's calculated cringe. That's weaponized cringe in a good way. But this is just they didn't know what they were doing. It's free on YouTube. Star Wars Holiday Special. Post your record. Just post your record on the Foxhole Reddit. Just see how far you get on it. Don't even post this is the Star Wars record. Just post the time. And we'll know what that means. The community will know what that means. They won't downvote it. Okay, so we will get to our first call. Actually, I'm gonna leave this channel, go into the lounge, and you'll only see Chicken in here, but you'll hear my audio, and I'm gonna explain things here. Hey, everyone in the lounge. Just wanted to say, just to clarify some things in the. Don't worry. This will be a long, transition as people get used to this. If you posted in the call queue, and whenever you do, edit and say I am in addition to whatever else you want to say, edit I am in, X clan, or just say I am in Psalm, or I am in whatever, or say I am not in Psalm, or I am not in a clan. And then just put that in your message. So I guess, here's Solo, LiquidPopsicle.
Jeffrey, by the way, in the lounge, I was about to stream everyone the Star Wars Christmas special. Funny.
Okay, have fun with that, with whatever. All right, thank you. Yeah, Spots, I'll get you first.
I gotta see how cringe it is for myself.
All right, back in Studio A, we're gonna bring in Spots, who has amended his message here. I'll be lenient on this on all the messages, because again we're switching to this new system. We'll see how it goes. But Spots, what did you have for us here? Welcome back.
Actually, this is me discussing about structures. I was planning to discuss, in my opinion, there's two weaponry. In my opinion, these two weapons in the game should do structure damage: field machine guns and ATRs.
I think they do, right? They should, because that's heavy weapons.
They do structure damage to tier 1s, but my suggestion is, because currently there's no reason to tech field machine guns for both sides. The Warriors get the flame mill vehicles, and Colonials just get better options just down the road with the HMGs, which are more mobile, which are just easier to bring up, which is just basically better and just comes a bit later. My suggestion is give field machine guns, because I did the research actually, because I'm someone who's just like, you know what, I'm bored. I was bored one day. I decided to go find a tier 2 bunker, and I figured out the dimensions of the wall. It's a meter thick, with two wood planks and dirt in between. So I did the research. It's about 78, I think, if I'm correct, like 924 millimeters of dirt, with if I'm correct, like 38. Like 70, like something like in the 70s or 80s millimeters of wood planks. Go
ahead, keep going.
So my idea is that, if I don't want to make HMGs too good, why don't we give advantages to the field machine gun and maybe the ATR, because I'm going a bit off of historical precedents as well, where ATRs in the later parts of World War II were used as anti-material rifles. My idea is that field machine guns and ATRs should do damage to tier 2 bunkers, maybe tier 2 G houses, but I not really want to go down that territory. But they should at least do damage to tier 2 bunkers to make them have a new use as an early game anti-bunker weapon.
Yeah, because right now... Hold on, we're getting some conflicting things in the chat here. KFC, can you clarify for us, can anti-tank rifles damage structures? Or certain structures?
No.
They cannot, at all?
I think they can, but like 1 damage or something. No, not really.
And so in Spots, you're saying that it should do more damage and then do damage to tier 2?
Yeah, because I'm talking about more historical precedence-wise. Yes, they were used as anti-tank weapons, and they're pretty good as anti-tank weapons, but when the bigger tanks come around, they are not that great of an anti-tank weapon. Yeah, if you have like a large squad of them, you might be able to kill a tank, but still, sticky rushes are more effective than a couple guys with ATRs. They're more of like, oh no, it's an ATR, we should back away, find where he is, and shoot him. It's more of what I like to call a weapon to pesky the enemy tanks with. It's more like a mosquito bite. Yeah, it's gonna hurt, but still, it's not gonna kill you, unless there's 10 billion mosquitoes coming right at you. But that's another conversation. Mainly ATRs were used as anti-material rifles when bigger armor tanks came around.
Sure, but then I guess are you talking about tanks or like armor, or are you talking about structures?
Buildings. Like I'm referring to more historical precedents.
So then, did they use anti-material rifles against bunkers?
I think they actually did. They used these anti-tank rifles against concrete bunkers, like not the super strong ones, but some of the weaker ones.
All right. Sorry, yeah. And then go ahead, KFC.
Sorry, somebody out there is going to correct me, but honestly, I think the ATR is a little bit out of its time period. They didn't really use ATRs in World War II except for, I think, late Pacific Theater.
And there was the Boys like anti-tank rifle for the British.
No, they did use it in the early parts of the wars as well with the Boise. Take a look up that ATR rifle.
Okay.
I just remember that because I thought Boys was the most hilarious name for an anti-tank rifle. It's like this. I was like boy, but it's this massive gun that well, at least in terms of like handheld weaponry. That only one person is supposed to do. I don't know. Company of Heroes.
They did use anti-tank rifles in the early parts of the war because of tank armor.
Sure.
At the time, tank armor was super weak. Like take a look at like every like just if you play War Thunder, the game that it's not fun in the retrospect and not fun at the same time while you're playing it. It's just not fun, but still you're having fun for some reason.
I mean, hey, look at Tankettes in Foxhole.
Yeah, Tankettes are another good example. Like it has armor, but still it doesn't have a lot of armor. That's what ATRs were historically used against during the early war until tanks got better armor on it over time. That's why ATRs
interesting. That's very good to know.
That's why ATRs were eventually abandoned for RPGs because RPGs had a copper. Because RPGs were early heat-fed stabilized rounds that infantry could carry. That's why, because they can pull out an RPG and penetrate a side of a tank. Because it had a copper lining and had better penetration overall.
You know, opening it up a little bit, and we'll close with this. KFC, how much of the dev team is like into World War II history? Like, how many World War II like history buffs would you say? Like if they're anything like me sometimes, where they'll go on deep Wikipedia holes, rabbit holes, and just like, oh yeah, I was looking up this province in Canada, and then suddenly I'm talking about like the Boys anti-tank rifle from World War II. Like, how the hell did I get here? Anyone on the dev team that's like that?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of like the deep nerds, I'd say there's 3, maybe 4. Nah, I'm gonna be safe and say 5, but okay. 3 I know of for sure. Everybody else is kind of like shades of gray going back. But myself, Mark, and Julian are like.
I knew Julian. Was one of them because he has to be if he's designing all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I bet he has like 50 favorites of just like tank. Or just, I'd love to see the folder. The art folder he has for references. Anyway, sorry, I could go off on that all day.
He's gonna make an art book after this. We're gonna make him do it.
Absolutely. I would buy that.
So much stuff he didn't even post. Like you guys haven't even seen yet. It's like, Julian, we need this, and he does a sketch, and that's it. Hey, it's like, we changed our mind.
A digital art book would be so awesome. Anyway, sorry. Well, we're going off track there. But hey, Spots, thanks so much for your idea. I know, write it up as usual, as I always like to suggest. And yes, I'll punt one last thing to KFC is. Just in terms of how much balance do you measure between putting in something for realism's sake, but then also putting in something for the game's sake? Like how far do you push the envelope before it's like, no, we got to do this?
Oh, we want to. I don't know. It's a question we have to ask ourselves every single day.
Okay.
I think as far as like a game philosophy goes, the first iteration is always just, let's get it in, let's make it work. Damn the realism. And then as time goes on, it bugs us, it rubs us the wrong way, and we slowly try to get it back into feeling like a tactile thing. That's just kind of game development in general. First, we got to make it work, and then we can make it feel right.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Spots, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
All right, coming up next, we've got Seeker and Nocturne from the Swords of Morrow. Thank you so much for your call. What do you got for us here tonight?
Hi, I'll start us off. So mainly the question that seems to be bouncing around people's heads seems to be respawn timers and how exactly that sort of works and how it balances depending on population.
Just respawn timers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the question specifically? You're just curious how it works?
Yeah, mostly because there are certain situations where it's like, we clearly have numerical superiority. okay, so we should have a long respawn timer, but then that sort of piddles off, and then it's the other team that has numerical superiority, and you're still getting that very long respawn timer, and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, Mark talks about a lot of factors, but I don't know. Can we get some enlightenment on what those factors can be? I know naturally people might think, well, maybe you just don't see all the people in the back there that are tipping the scales in their favor. But I don't know. There might be more to it than that. So yeah, can you enlighten us, Max?
I can't.
You can't because people
I
might
would
game
love
it.
to. Exactly. It's rather than answer that question, I guess I can sort of explain why we can't really talk about it. It does take a lot of factors, like Mark said. The most obvious one that I'm sure players have figured out already is global queue or regional queue. Again, I can't talk too much about how it works. But the reason why we can't is because there are some aspects of game development and all of the games, not just Foxhole, that are more about feel than it is about actual mechanics. It's like it's like taking away the magic of something like having damage readouts on your guns in Counter-Strike, right? Like the reason why they don't, when you mouse over your M4, why don't they tell you that it does 25 damage as opposed to 32 damage per bullet or something to that effect? They just give you a little bar that gives you a rough idea of how much damage it does. The reason they do that is so that players don't pore over the details. They don't want you to mind, like, players will pull it apart and figure it out themselves, but they don't want you to figure that stuff out. They would rather you just played the game, just fired the weapon and got a feel for how strong it was, and then draw your own conclusions from that. And Foxhole is an infinitely more complex social game than any other. Most notable problem is, like, I'm sure you've all realized that one of the major deciding factors of a war is morale, and we can't control how players feel in a game. We can't control that, the colonials are steamrolling the wardens in this one region, and that's causing a lot of the warden clans to give up, or, that there was an exploit that somebody had managed to find in one war, and now the other side is just all logging out. We can't control that. But what we can try to control is how it feels, right? Is that when you are starting to lose the war, we want you to start to feel like things are getting better, or that things aren't hopeless, right? Like if you are outnumbered 10-1, right? You don't want to feel like you're outnumbered 10-1, because all that's going to do is make you log off. So we need to find some way to balance out how the players feel in those situations, and we got to try our best to make sure that the side that's not being completely overrun is just not having any fun at all. And so we've changed a number. We have a whole slew of systems, and not just the global queue, but a ton of factors running in the background of a war that ultimately help us to manage and try to balance that enjoyability for both sides.
More than would you say there's more than 10 factors that go into calculating respawn?
Oh, easily.
More than 30.
It's exponential, because the factors that get plugged into the respawn time is plugged into another system that is plugged into 3 other systems. Managing other various aspects of the game, things that people don't really think about regularly. And then, so it's when you plug in one system to another system, you're just getting exponential number of systems that are plugging into the overall effect of it. So it's when somebody messages me and says, "Hey, our respawn timers are really long. Can you tell us what's going on?" I mean, I'll check the major systems, the ones that like player queue and that sort of thing, and just to make sure that, even if you are the winning side, you're not sitting in a queue of 300 people, because that's not fun either. So that's gotta be, we gotta make sure that nothing is broken. But that's the gist of it. We've got a number of tools on our disposal as well that we can manually check to make sure that nothing is broken.
So then go. I mean, Seeker, Nocturne, feel free to cut me off. It's your call. But in terms of going back to that philosophy you had about kind of needing the necessity of providing ambiguity, just because you don't want people to game it too hard, or you want players to approach it a certain way. Isn't that philosophy kind of problematic with both the sandbox and also just with the alpha nature of Foxhole, where we're trying to figure things out? If we, I don't know if we can give you feed. We can't. It's difficult to give you feedback if things are just so ambiguous in terms of the tools provided to the players. Hello?
Was that directed at Nocturne?
I'm sorry, no, that was to you.
Oh, does it mess with the sandbox? Yeah, I think it does. But that being said, I mean, if you're going to be on the winning side of a conflict with 10 times the number of players as the losing side, is it not also affecting your enjoyment if the other side is just given up? Like if they just don't have a chance because they're completely outnumbered, like doesn't that affect your enjoyment of the war as well? Like maybe it does impact the sandbox element of being overwhelmed, but I think that this is one of those parts of the game that's difficult to balance. It's not difficult it's difficult because it is one of those realistic problems that we can't solve because it's a video game. It's similar to the reason why when you have to border travel, right? When in a real conflict, you would have a set number of soldiers on either side that doesn't increase or decrease, and in our game,
they'll definitely decrease.
Yeah,
but
in our game, one player who plays 10 hours is worth 10 times as much as a player that plays 1 hour. And we can't control how much time players are putting into this game. That's ultimately the problem we have to resolve, is that we want both of those players, the one that plays 10 hours and the one that plays 1 hour, to feel enjoyment. And without having variable spawn timers, that I think that both sides would inevitably find the game somewhat lacking.
Yeah, because there's some accessibility issues there then too, I guess. I don't know. Seeker, Nocturne, thoughts so far, follow-ups?
I can kind of see where he's coming from, yeah. It's certainly one of those things where if you do explain in more detail, someone's going to have their thumb on the scale a bit more than the other side.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's difficult. I understand the pain of seeing 60 seconds on a respawn timer. I personally don't feel it just as much because when I see 60 seconds, I'm like, well, I guess I just got to think about it more. I don't know. That's just me. But I'm a slower player in that regard. I'm a slower paced player in that regard. But I absolutely feel that pain, particularly when there's stuff to do. I don't know. Maybe if there was, I don't know. Then there's all sorts of peripheral things that can help mitigate that too. Like if you were in a squad, for instance, maybe we can encourage that. It can ease the pain on a 60-second timer.
See, you and I were on the same wavelength. That's exactly what I was thinking. It goes back to what we were talking about 3 weeks ago. It's like if we could. The problem isn't necessarily with the 60-second respawn timer. The problem for me is that you're not getting enough enjoyment out of the 20 seconds that you're alive for the 60 seconds you're waiting. So what we should be looking at is how to make living more important. You should, if you're in a squad of 6 guys and you go off into the wilderness and sit on a back line and hunt enemy trucks and you don't die for 20 minutes, 60 seconds respawn is nothing. It feels like nothing. But if you're just running to the front and dying immediately without any coordination or team or enjoyment, then of course you're going to feel like the 60 seconds feels like garbage. So I think that's where we can make progress, is trying to make that the time you're alive more enjoyable than the time you spend dead.
So I don't mean to.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to be interrupting or anything.
It's your call.
But wouldn't it also be possible to increase the ability of or survivability of players that are in these situations where they might just be going up to the front and dying? I know that the medical update was huge. I mean, personally for me too, because I used to love playing medic. And being able to move players now has also been huge in survivability of players.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm 150% on board with that. A mechanic I really like from PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is I love how when you go down, you have a ton of health. That doesn't work in our game because we want to be a little bit more realistic than that. But what I love about that in PUBG is that when you're in a firing squad hunkering down in a house, it feels like the firefights can last for 20 minutes. And I love that feeling that, even though your friend went down, it doesn't mean the end of the game. He can get picked up and continue fighting. And it sort of creates this sense of like, I'm in a firefight, even though it's not realistic, but I'm in a firefight and I'm having lots of fun this whole time. And that's what I agree. I think that having a longer survivability or a higher survivability and putting more emphasis on staying alive, I think that's something we could push.
I think one step that I don't think a lot of people will argue is making all medical tools available at the very start of the war. Unless that's changed, I don't know if that's changed for this war, but I'm pretty sure. Every war I go, wait a second, why aren't first aid kits unlocked? Why isn't that a thing? What is that? That's not a pacing issue. That just encourages teamwork. I don't know. That's me. I'd even say go far as ambulances and that mechanic. But at the very least, first aid kit, doctor bag, plasma, and or rather blood, and the ammunition for that, and the bandages.
Yeah, I agree. 100. Yep.
Well, Seeker, Nocturne, did you have anything else for us?
Yeah. I had a question regarding. I know that the MHT and the light tank destroyer has been a very hot topic within the community, and I wanted to kind of ask, with more real wars, I know that comparing Foxhole to a real war is never a solid.
It's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah, it's very tricky. Foxhole's not a real war. No matter how many times we equate it to one, it's not. There's so many other factors that don't happen in a real war. I don't see a truck go off into space. I don't see those flying trucks. I don't see the colonial space program. But something I was thinking about was we have all these vehicle variants with the new arms race update. I was wondering, although each faction has their own specific type of vehicle, wouldn't each faction have some type of equivalent? Not something that is the same, statistically speaking, but something that feels like the same role. A good example to me for that, actually I have two good examples for this, would be the AT armored car and the heavy armored car. They both fill kind of like an AT role as an armored car, but they also have their own strengths and weaknesses. And the other example for that is the tractored armored car. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name of it. And the tankette. They're both off-road armored car variants.
Right. So are you asking if would you suggest that, or would you make tweaks to that?
I mean, personally thinking here, I would say, would we ever see a Warden equivalent? Maybe not a half track, but maybe a truck equivalent of the mortar half track. Or would the Colonials have maybe a tank at 40 millimeter?
Yep, for sure. That's the ideal, actually. I think what we have with what the example you raised about the AT. Sorry, I'm not going to be using the right names. The AT rifle armored car versus the heavy armored car. Those two are perhaps too symmetrical, because I prefer what you suggested, that if the Colonials have a very highly defensive half track, that the Wardens might have a highly defensive light tank, right? That's what I'd rather see. And then if that's not balanced, obviously it's not, then the Colonials should get something else that perhaps is along the same vein but slightly different, that feels like it's filling a same or similar niche that the armored light tank might fill. So yeah, that's basically our philosophy. That's exactly how we'd like to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, Seeker, Nocturne, thank you so much. Some good questions there. Appreciate it.
I leave with one final thing.
Okay.
For the next look in the call queue, you would see my idea of a good map idea that might just be.
He posted the the world map, but it's like one lane. Or no, it's like a yin yang kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of cool. It'd be a mess, and I kind of don't like it, but like I don't know. I'd say screw it. Why not?
Excuse me, I'm only a fan of Donut Map, where it's only the outside regions.
Not S map.
Not S Map, only Donut Map.
Oh, okay.
Only the outside regions.
A chemical truck has spilled off in abandoned Ward City, so then now that whole region is just closed off.
We'll start them all new.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Seeker, Nocturne, thank you so much. I know the debate will rage on vehicle balance. Considering the devs introduced it, asymmetry, they've kind of condemned Foxhole to forever be back and forth on balance. But hey, here we are.
It was a pleasure being on tonight, guys.
Always a pleasure to be here.
See ya. All right. So just to clarify some of the rules that, again, the regimental rules, we've actually opened up a bit. And that call was great, perfect in terms of how they approached it, just in terms of how they got in. So just to clarify, if anyone from Swords of Morrow wanted to put themselves in call queue and call in, they're free to do that. Nocturne and Seeker cannot be part of that call. Additionally, that was the multi-person call. So from now on, Swords of Morrow can only join one at a time, and we have to insert someone in between that isn't part of Swords of Morrow. Again, tricky, I know, but this is kind of the compromise we've reached compared to the just shove everyone into one big call, and that's it for that entire regiment. Which is, hey, if you still want to do that, that's perfectly fine by me. It makes it easier, but we opened up a bit. All right, so coming up next are our local artillery expert, among others. We don't want to give off the impression that only LiquidPopsicle is the.
No, you do. You do want to get off that impression.
Okay, gotcha, got it. True. Okay, go ahead.
There's so much stuff to talk about, and as much as I'd love to keep here all day, because I could keep here all day.
Can I start by asking you a question?
Oh, by all means, please do.
What do you want from artillery?
That's a dangerous question to ask, my friend.
Prioritize,
very
please.
Dangerous question.
Prioritize.
All right. I have been, usually I've been very specific. I talk about it all the time, especially in FOD. What I really want to see, and this was something else that I was going to bring up too, the general like heavy artillery, it needs to be near what the storm cannon is, but mobile. I love the idea of the storm cannon, but if it wasn't tied to a bunker, if it was like some major project that you put on a rail car so that it was mobile, that you could like move it around, defend it, that kind of thing. That way it wasn't stuck there and just a massive target, but was still a massive target, if that makes sense.
Mobile artillery.
Brilliant. But all around, what I desperately want to see, the spawn points need to be completely immune to artillery. The only way to take a spawn point should be having your own people on the ground there, shooting at it, putting satchel charges on it, capturing it. Artillery should not be able to snipe spawn points under any way, shape, or form.
So that includes town halls, safe houses, outposts, anything that you can spawn at. So bunker bases, the actual stockpile.
Pretty much.
Anything that has a stockpile and you can spawn from, set your spawn. Immune to, at the very least, you can't destroy it. I don't know. Maybe there's a compromise.
You can. No, you'll definitely be able, just like the safe house, exactly like the safe house, right? The artillery should be able to provide supporting fire and soften it.
But
right?
it can't
kill it. It should be encouraged to do that.
You need the killing blow.
It's easier to actually take it out, but you shouldn't be able to just solo it, right? The second thing, artillery needs to be much less accurate, like storm cannon levels of accurate. I know one thing that really got me when the storm cannon was first introduced. I don't know why, but there were some people that thought it was just like the FA, where it was precise. And every time they fired a shell, it would go in a different place, and they got really, really confused because they thought they had sighted it correctly, right? But the shell landed somewhere else, so then they sighted it off of that, and it moved even further away. Now, the less accurate the artillery is, the better it is for large-scale softening of defenses, large-scale infantry support, instead of, oh, this particular building is giving us trouble, get rid of it, right? The sniping is very, very bad. The large-scale, okay, you want this area gone? We got you covered. Let us prep for 30 minutes and then knock it out, right? Love that. Another thing, Very, very important. Especially with artillery being unable to completely destroy any kind of spawn point, it needs to have longer range. Much longer range. I'm talking like in the 750 to 1,000 meter range.
This is the storm cannon specifically.
No, this is just artillery in general. Like all the artillery needs to have its range increased. And at the same time, right? You're like the FA the way it is now. It's
a sniper.
It's in a decent spot. It just needs to be less accurate, maybe a little bit more range. But the heavier artillery, I would love to see. In fact, I'm desperate to see. I think about this all the time, and I actually make my own concept art. The heavy guns need to be something that requires, 1 to 2 people to operate, because you have to have someone to actually load the gun, right? And then you have someone else to fire it. But at that point, if the loader and the fire are different seats, you can switch between them and manually load it for an even slower rate of fire. But they should have a high impact damage, low splash, with a very slow rate of fire. That way, when you do these barrages, they're going to be drawn out over a longer period of time. It's not going to be this instant pew 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 pew, then the town hall's gone, right? It's going to give you time to react, and the artillery's still going to feel really weighty and dangerous.
I think someone else suggested where it's turn every fire support weapon, or at least howitzers, maybe also field artillery. Have it function like you're loading a storm cannon. So for the howitzer, at least, you would need like a box, or like you have to physically carry each shell, give it to the loader, and put it in. As opposed to, okay, I just assembled 7 howitzer shells in my backpack, and then I just click, and if they're all in there, okay, now you got 7 shots. I'll go back for another one.
Oh yeah,
and it's each individual
one.
That
is what I want to see.
That is what I think. Maybe it was you or someone else. Yeah, might have been.
Another thing that you'd have to do with this is you'd have to have the ability to create ammunition piles, right? You have to have ammunition that you can set down on a stockpile. You'd have to have some way to transport large amounts of ammunition outside of it being crated. But then, like, you set up your field artillery or your howitzer or whatever, and, it only has, like, 10 inventory slots, right? You load those 10 inventory slots with whatever shell type you want to fire. You can go through and you can cycle really, really quickly with a really high fire rate that way, but you're going to spend a large amount of time reloading it, taking shells from wherever you have them stored one by one, putting them back near the guns, and then loading, right? You get higher burst effectiveness with lower overall raw damage output over time.
Yeah. And I think people are also forgetting that when you extend the range, people are imagining a nightmare scenario where people, let's say the front line is at abandoned ward in Deadlands, and then you're thinking, oh my God, can you just camp the border region up north so that I'll just assume wardens. Like, so if the Colonials have a howitzer right next to Deadlands, and then you give it 750 meters or whatever you decide to give it, can it just snipe even into the next region? Like, how unfair is that? I think people forget that confirming the shot is incredibly important. And if every artillery piece is made, every fire support weapon is made to be given more, or inaccurate. So now everything is cone fire, or there's there's error. There's bigger room for error. It'll be much harder. You'll need confirmation on the ground, and that's I think people will be a lot more hesitant to throw shells into the next region if that's the case. But we'll have to wait.
Another thing, and this is something that I really, really want to see, which might give some people a little bit of trouble, right? But the FA, it's the only artillery piece in the game that has an instance where if you're at a different altitude than what you're firing at, your targeting is going to be skewed. That needs to be applied to everything. And I'd love to have like a topography map. So like, okay, our howitzers are at this height, and we're firing at this height, so we need to adjust this way.
We need a topography map in general, but yeah, go ahead.
We do need a topography map.
Can I say something about that real quick?
Yes.
Before you continue. That's actually the heart of the mortar half-track problem that you guys were, that a lot of players were complaining about over the before the holidays. There was an issue that came up early on where players were saying that the mortar half track was broken because it was getting 120 meter range when it should only have 65 meter range. And granted, some of it is broken. It's definitely broken because of the what's like obscene amounts of range, which is far beyond what the 65 meters intended was. However, what made that the reason why that bug existed was exactly what you're discussing here. It actually has to do with the trajectory of the shells coming out of the mortar half track. We're going at a specific angle, and when you tilted that angle, it was actually making that parabola give you the extra range, which is, for all intents and purposes, working exactly how we want it to work. It's really cool seeing it on things like the field artillery, getting that little extra range because you're higher is exactly what we want artillery and all field weapons to do. But we have to obviously find some way to rein in this obscene range from just tilting it. But I mean sorry, I just wanted to stop you there because that's what I wanted to talk about. We actually really like that feature, and we're going to try to keep that in, even if it means we might have to revert the fix that we currently have on the mortar half track to get it. The mortar half track thing is like a temporary thing that we put in, and we'll probably have to pull it out at some point.
Yeah, I think,
probably not without some balance.
I think a topography map would be so helpful with that because people are, I've actually witnessed this where they're on the receiving end of a mortar half track, and they'll go, "Wait, what? I thought we were outside of mortar range. How are we getting hit this far back?" Oh no, they're using the tilt. And well, how the hell are we supposed to know that? I didn't know. I can't even see on the map where the elevation is. So it would be helpful there too.
Yeah, there's specifically with the mortar half track, and any other form of artillery that would use an actual parabola. You basically, if you lock the angle of the parabola to the horizontal, and basically like tilting it on actual terrain doesn't do anything, but increasing its height does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would bother very many people at all.
I think you're right, and I think that's probably something.
That's what I would suggest. That's what I'd want to see.
Want to close out with one last thing
for artillery that I wanted to say. I really want to see basically wind, the weather effects, the environments, basically how high the wind speed is, whatever, blow the shell off course, right? And this is something that would change very slowly over time. Like over the course of 20 minutes, you might have to readjust your fire, right? But the thing is, no matter what, because there is wind, you will have to adjust your fire. And forcing players to do the adjustment of fire is what makes it even more difficult to do that long-range sniping fire, right, that everyone's so afraid of. And please, I want to see the in-game radios function as actual radios.
Well, you just made that so much harder. You just made that so much harder because I have a weather report at the bottom of every hour. I have but if you put in wind as a mechanic, then I can't automate that. Someone has to actually go in and do it. So thanks for making it harder. I'm sorry, what were you talking about with in-game radio? Are you talking about like PressCorps radio or like?
No. Like talking. What I really want to see is like the actual. Okay.
Yes,
the radio.
I agree.
Right, like the handheld radio and the radio backpack. I would love for it to be like your faction has like whatever radio channels. Maybe it would work like the old operation system used to, right? Where like you join on the radio channel, and if you have the radio equipment, you can listen to it. If you go to someone who has a radio backpack or go to like a player-built radio station, you can broadcast on it, you can talk to people, right? And if we're sitting up in the back and we've got our own little radio station that's like going to tell us, someone gets on the radio and they're like, hey, we need artillery support at this location, even if we're 750 meters away from the front line, right? We hear that call in and we're like, okay, fire support inbound, tell us where you need it on the map, we'll send it.
Max,
like
I
that
promise.
kind of communication. The biggest thing with that is that it allows you to communicate with people outside of your Discord channel.
Yes.
That will get used. That will very much get used.
You want to talk about developing culture in the game, taking it out of Discord or out of third-party systems and putting it into the game. That's definitely the way to go. Max, I promise I didn't pay LiquidPopsicle to bring that up. He knows I have sent like hour-long slideshow presentations where I record myself going through that exact idea. So yeah, I'm with it.
I love that. I actually played Squad over the actually I think it was before the break.
Yes, Squad
On
is
that free
amazing.
weekend, I decided to give it a shot, and man, I love their communication system. The way that you just get dropped in, and now you're part of the squad, and then like your squad leader's telling you what to do. I love that. That was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Hey, Liquid, thank you so
I'm
much.
sad that I didn't get to talk about what I wanted to talk about, but it's amazing to get to like have you ask me a question. I didn't expect that. That's awesome.
I really appreciate the answer. That was really helpful.
All right. Hey, as usual, Liquid, thank you so much. Appreciate you stopping by.
Yep. Have a nice night.
All right, we have a written question here from Qloos, and yeah, perfect. If you have any written questions, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll get to it as if you were part of the chat itself. As usual with written questions, I will do my best to represent the question in the discussion, but I can't always guarantee that. Our views, my views might differ from yours, or I just don't know how certain things may work from your perspective. But I'll do my best. So, Qloos has a question here: If the current in-game social environment in Foxhole is tribalism, where the loudest guy in chat has the most sway, what political system, I think he means like social system, is the ideal goal for how players interact with each other? And you know what, he does have a point. Yeah, that it is kind of politics in a way. There's people who subscribe to the doctrine that everything is politics. When you have a group of 3 or more people, there's politics involved in some special way. So KFC, yeah, what political system or social system is the ideal goal for how players interact with each other?
I think this is hard to answer because everybody on the team has a different perspective on like what an ideal social system would be. But I think I know for certain that the unified goal of the team in terms of like game mechanics is we want everybody who joins the game of Foxhole to feel like they're a part of one team, not a fractured section of a larger team. So similar to that feeling when you log into squad and you have like the squad that's working with you and the squad leader telling you what to do and some greater commander telling the squad leaders what to do. That's what we want to emulate across an entire world of thousands of players. We want players to feel like, I'm not here to play with my chums or my buddies. I'm here to play with 1,000 other guys all working towards that same goal. That's our ideal. How we accomplish that is going to obviously have to make some sacrifices. We understand there is a strong desire to want to split off and make a clan, for example, but the ultimate ideal goal is one team.
Yeah, and it's tricky because you wanna promote the player agency, the individual player freedom. Getting into some possible political hot words, but yeah, individual player freedom is is something that I think everyone can ascribe to. And I know there's a lot of talk about, or not a lot of talk, but rather every now and then someone submits a suggestion or a proposal for like voting systems in the game. It's like we need like a region commander. Like what if you had a region commander and then you can vote for it every 24 hours. And those things always kind of fall on their. I think those things never really play out the way people imagine them, because voting is so tricky. Particularly because that brings up the philosophical questions of, well, what if I miss the vote, but then by like 5 minutes and I don't get to vote? But then I want to play the game for 4 hours. Well, then am I not represented? Or, how long does that vote last? What if that person does a bad job? And it's like, I don't know if you want to introduce like hard set political systems like that, or at least in that way. I think the squads in themselves are very important for kind of meshing those two thoughts together, which is grouping people up, trying to put people into bigger, larger teams, or at least subgroups, but at the same time giving them that agency, because when you join a squad, you are essentially voting for it, right? In a way, you're promoting it, because if you don't like it, you wouldn't be in there, or at least I would hope so. Same with being in a regiment. Like, hey, I don't like being part of this regiment, then just leave, right? And then in that way, that's kind of your way of promoting it, and I guess even downvoting it in a certain way too. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, promoting one big team among the faction. That comes down to a lot of smaller mechanics, and I think it's all dependent Max, on how the regiment system or just the outfit or clan system, however you call it, gets implemented? I don't know. Can you enlighten us on any hints on if how that'll be?
Nope.
Yeah, I figured.
I won't do anything grandiose for our first version, typical with all of our designs. And like I said earlier, when we have a first implementation of a system, it's typically just try to make it work first and then iterate on it from there. So if we do ever implement a clan system, expect it to be pretty simple. And everything that isn't simple, that's a big bonus.
I think it's another thing I left behind in 2020 is I never played with PlanetSide 2 with you.
Oh yeah, that's right. Didn't they even have a? Oh, it's free now, right?
It's been free. I think it's always been free, but they have a lot of microtransactions there too. But yeah, you can play it for free, no problem. And it's a pretty well, actually, it can be a little overwhelming to get into. But if I can show you around. I still got my old VCO outfit from Emerald that they still play every couple days. So I think I'll take you on that journey. It'll probably be crazy because I don't know. I think they pull like a Platoon Plus. So yeah, you want to talk about community political systems? Then yeah, get into PlanetSide 2 and just sit in that command chat, and you'll hear politics. Maybe not like real life politics, but you'll hear the politics of that game churning. And as dumb as that can be, and in some ways, it's not far off of what Foxhole has too, and what you'll just get naturally from just from having MMOs like this. Like you'll never escape, quote unquote politics of how larger groups work. It's just gonna happen. That's just how people work. But yeah, I'll take you on that.
PvP is politics, 100%.
That's a good term for it. All right, so coming up next, we missed him last call, but Lek, welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps. First one of 2020. Got your train moments right here. What do you got?
Maybe I'll bring up trains.
We'll see.
I look, hey man, I've settled with the fact that it's a ways out, so I'm not gonna any train stuff. It's off the table for at least like a couple months. Plus, I'm too busy to focus on that shit anyway.
It's not even so much that it's a ways out, or even if it is. I'm worried for your health, Lek, that the first iteration isn't what you wanted, or that it'll be fully fleshed out. So, Lek, of course, that's everything else in Foxhole, right? So, Lek, I hope you're prepared for that inevitable reality when it comes around.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's kind of like the bunker situation. Like, it's a good foundation. Hopefully, they can, fill it in.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Concrete jokes.
Train memes aside, what do you got for us, Lek?
Well, actually, concrete memes, but mostly in the sense of It's funny that you bring up the way you said that earlier, though, about it won't be on the first iteration. It's kind of like that with bunkers right now. It's like there's so much stuff that I still want with bunkers. Why don't we have a 2x3 bunker section that you could upgrade to be like a garage to repair armor and maybe make motorcycles or some shit? Think about all the cool possibilities you could have if you incorporated that with a bunker system. No,
so you're saying give players the ability to create production facilities now.
Yeah, but in a different way than the ways that they are, now. The way we have production right now, while I'm personally I've had this conversation a million times before on your program here,
mm-hmm.
but I'm in favor of that which expands the sandbox and players freedom to create interesting or dynamic moments, right? And I feel like player-driven logic is one of that. It's obviously for balancing reasons, you don't want to be able to build stuff just randomly anywhere in terms of refining and all that jazz. But I feel like there's a number of things that you could do to just allow for more just player. Yeah,
how would you compromise it? How would you compromise it?
It's one of those things where it's my ultimate dream would be the ability for players to build entire makeshift towns that would even outpace what we start with in game.
Okay.
But I realize that that's a bit of a far cry from what the devs would want
mainly for balancing concerns.
Well, let's ask Max. Yeah, Max, I'm sure that suggestion has come across the desk before. What was kind of like it's kind of the reason why, you don't just give players the ability to make their own factories and vehicle garages.
I think you've been playing too much Anvil there, Lek.
You realize I didn't touch the last test because everything broke. Do you not remember the black hole, or were you even there for that?
No, I haven't. I'm not involved in
Anvil is the other game that, or rather, even I don't know what digital.
No. Hey! They did refer to it as a game. Matt said they're two different games.
It's the other one by Clapfoot.
It's a tech demo.
Tech demo that is not Foxhole.
Jokes aside, it's just a prototype that you guys said you were possibly like if the thing works well, you might turn it into like a proper game, but you'd have to like go back and rejig all the code and all that because it's all like prototypes right now, not like an actual like it's not set up to be expanded upon meaningfully. But
yeah, but anyway, to answer your question, it's funny. Everybody makes fun of us for the vision on all caps, but don't
forget the spaced letters
with the spaced letters and the caps, uncaps, caps, uncaps, the vision. But it's funny whenever we talk to you guys one-on-one about like your ideas for what you'd like to see Foxhole be. It's 100% in the vision. Not a single person has come onto the show with a single idea today that didn't fit squarely inside our vision. So that fills me with some confidence.
You know your audience, huh?
That fills me with confidence. Like everything you suggested here about the sandbox, that's all stuff we would really love to do. Being able to have towns that were created by players or just roads that were created by players, I think would be really
There's
cool.
a difference between like roads and towns, because like with roads are like a lot more like heavily impactful for, you could argue back and forth on which one, but like I feel like roads would be more impactful if it was given sandbox. Like,
see, that's what I'm talking about. I think all of you in the chat, and you, Lek, especially, you all know the main problems. You have a vision for what you want the game to be. You want to have towns. You want to have like player constructed roads, player constructed towns. But you also see the problems. Like we can't just throw in a road, like a player built road, because like then players are going to create crisscrossing roads everywhere. Everywhere will be a road by the end of a week. And we can't have player built towns because you know that they'll just have towns building into towns and it would just be ridiculous.
Well, hey, I feel like you're overestimating the level of masochism of your player base if you think everyone's going to be farming G supplies to maintain like artificial towns constantly.
That's true.
Because you fucks would do that. You guys would want to fill up your fucking... You guys would drain the soul essence of like just Logi players from suffering, just constantly having to maintain that shit. But yeah, it's yeah.
So yeah, I love all of what you said. If there was a solid idea that addressed all of our core concerns with having player built towns, that would work and fit inside.
I want to. Well, speaking of that, that's a very vague thing to say. But what are those concerns that you
I was going to ask that too.
Like the concerns with having a player built
like
town.
The big ones.
I'm going to be honest. The biggest one right now is scheduling. We really don't. We have a lot of other parts of the game that we.
Let's assume.
Okay, okay. That's like, but that's like that. You could use that for. That's a universal.
Okay, yeah. Let's move on. What else? What's the other reason beside that?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so player-built towns. I think
not even just the towns, like the production facilities.
I'm going to turn the question around on you. How would you build? How would you have a player-built town constructed?
Here's the thing.
How would you build it?
Part of the glorious like idea of it is that you wouldn't know, and so over time, like you would literally like towns would have an identity because they'd be built based on how they're constructed, right? There isn't a right answer for that, right?
I
would obviously like I have my own style for like when I play any like town maintenance or like building game, what's the term? Management game? I always have a style which is build with a sense of like there's gonna be more stuff here, like build where you have room to expand, but like also it like somewhat that, but also sometimes I like to get stuff too cramped. It's like I'm kind of like, I don't always future-proof, but I feel like that kind of adds to the charm, where you've got to find like jury-rigged solutions to like problems that arose from prior like decisions you made that weren't like necessarily thinking about the future. Because I feel like that honestly adds like a little bit of charm when you have to like think about how prior decisions impacted your overall design of a town. Like maybe you have an entire wing of the town that you built because of one decision that you made on accident, where things could have been a whole lot more efficient, but now you have to do this other thing because of a decision you made. And then over time, as people would get better, people would design towns better, but like people would always have like a difference of opinion on how you build a town, and like you'd be able to go into different towns, and they would, because a lot of the towns feel very samey aside from like some unique unique assets, but player built towns would all have like different layouts and different like that kind of stuff, right? Like every town would, aside from like most, like eventually you'd get like sort of towns that feel similar-ish, but I still feel like that there would be enough variety that you'd know like this, like you generally understand like when there's a substantial difference like within that town building idea. But
I think there's
answer. Okay, yeah, no.
No, yeah, there's another angle there too. So you were talking about just how sloppy it can get by people trying to build.
And I see
something.
that as a good thing, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. So you see that as a positive more than anything, and it's difficult to see how it would play out. I'm actually more open to that, of just towns in general, than I am with trains, because trains at the very least, trains are like, that's a track, right? As opposed to like a town where you can jimmy things around. But we can debate that forever. So, Elgani wrote that, players can build roads. 2 days into the war, the entirety of the map is now just a giant gravel road. So part
of that is kind of related to like the whole thing about like the entire map is roads. Something about that is like, you know how pits is shells, and people always talk about what if like shells actually left permanent craters, or at least like craters that like lasted, right? And it's like, it's kind of, I feel like the same thing would happen with roads, and I feel like that would either be kind of cool or kind of obnoxious, right, after like a couple days, and I feel like that's mostly why you wouldn't want it, right?
Yeah, well, I think that just gets to the heart of the issue, is that if you give players the ability to do something, they will min-max it, or they will exploit it to its fullest extent.
Oh wait, I think we're underestimating how sadistic the devs are again. They'd require G supplies for roads.
Yeah, but even then, they'd still do it, right? We always go back. I personally always go back to Cronus Winter. That dude is insane, right? I'm surprised he's as nice of a person as he is.
I don't see him around much.
Well,
anymore,
we probably broke him.
Insane.
But no, Cronus, if you're watching, I love you. But
actually, that's the question. It's not the chicken or the egg. It's the sadistic devs or the masochistic players, which gives first.
Yeah, and not to mention too that roads kind of set a pacing of their own, really. That's a huge way to dictate the player flow of everything. It can seriously upset the balance of
partisans, logi, like tank combat. There's a lot of different ways that shit impacts it.
Yeah, so we're kind of positing and answering our own questions here. But Max, what's your reaction?
What other concerns do you have about like
those are the big ones, aren't they?
Logi hubs and all that.
Well, I mean, that's going back. You guys just outlined a lot of the core problems with it, but there's a bunch of others as well. Like Strike Commander Ray's said something in chat here that's very, very apt. Is, I don't know, player bunker bases tend to feel pretty samey. I don't see why towns would feel any different, and I definitely see that happening. Like the garrison houses, if players are building towns, they would just build rows of the best possible garrison house in the direction of the enemy, and it wouldn't feel like a town. It would just feel
when
like
I say towns, like I more so mean like industrial complexes, like expanding upon like the different like types of things that you can build inside any type of bunker base, where it's like you, because people like a medical bunker, for example, or like maybe a recycling plant to like turn any item into BMATs. So theoretically, if you're stealing enemy stuff, and like maybe you have a fuck ton of one item that's been oversupplied, you can just turn that into BMATs and then like use those BMATs to either repair. Maybe you have a localized factory that you can make something else with it. that kind of stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about. I want to play The Sims World War I pack in Foxhole.
Well, you were around for when we had the Foundations of War, right? Where you could upgrade the factories based on what you wanted, and every town had a factory and a refinery, and you got to choose.
Yes, and that's why fucking Psalm like fell in love with Hermit's Rest, because they would always make it like their ultra logi hub.
Yeah, I liked it personally. I thought it was a really cool way for players to sort of shape the world on their own, and I think I would really like to see us push in that direction.
My whole issue with that system was that it was incredibly like my whole issue is that it was incredibly grindy and it still felt pretty samey. But that was mostly because it was all just upgrading facilities and not actually building any physical stuff. Plus the variety was pretty limited.
And I think the last point we should probably close out on this one is that if you give players the ability, bringing it back to that, if you give players the ability to make production facilities, not even talking about towns, but just making industrial sectors or trench cities or whatever, if you give players the ability, won't that just make like the pre-built towns irrelevant? Or is that also an intended feature where it's like, over the course of the war, just make Abandoned Ward irrelevant in terms of its production value?
Stuff would never become irrelevant.
Okay, sorry. So let's say, I don't know.
I mean, in my theoretical system, you could effectively entirely replace a town, provided that you have enough people working and grinding to
so that's a
build
feature.
up enough infrastructure.
Got it.
But the idea is that would take at least a week. But actually, I'm not going to get into another point I was going to make about how bunkers are still borked with how easy they are to build early and how difficult they are late. You said you wanted to end off the segment, so I'm not going to get into that. That was another one issue is that in terms of how to make towns feel different. Real quick, you could have it's just more pieces and more variety of what you could build with the bunker bases. More modular stuff, the storm cannon is the only modular structure that you actually can build with bunkers. It's the only thing that requires a set number of things. Everything else is a 1x1. I feel like having more stuff that requires specific planning, we're going to put a 2x2 here because it's going to have a mortar emplacement on it, or set up for a howitzer emplacement or something like that. We're going to have this over here because it's going to be a medical tent, so that way we can just mass, when we get ambulances, we can just mass create supply here and be self-sufficient on this front should the enemy push up this floor or stuff like that, right? But it's ultimately a system where it's you just have to add on to it. And I know that you said earlier your core concern was scheduling, or one of them, or
not even scheduling, but more so. So are you talking about the fact that
1.0 is coming up?
Oh, sorry, that's what Max brought up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually this is a somewhat of an aside, but I said it in FOD a week ago, but I'm kind of nervous with FOD coming up, and the way, I think it was either Crazy or Mark or someone that said it, where it was effectively that there won't be any more big system revisions come 1.0, and that kind of scares me because there's a number of systems that I see that could be in need of several revisions. Though I think that there's a lot of systems that could just benefit from, like I said, just more additions, namely the bunker system, the Logi game, tanks, infantry, all of that could do with just more stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to fit in all the core revisions that you have in mind or that the game needs before 1.0. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it all.
Yeah, I want to explain that a little bit so that it's completely clear. When I said that, the idea, what it looks like to us, it looks different to us than it does to you guys, obviously. When you guys see tanks rolling out, you see that as an individual piece of content. To us, that is one part of a larger system. When we took the time during the arms race to add new vehicles to the game, we spent a lot more time developing a foundation for producing those vehicles than we did producing the vehicles themselves.
Yeah, you made a system for adding more stuff, yeah? Yeah,
Exactly.
the infrastructure to add more stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And when I was saying on the FOD was that this is one of our last chances to get one of those foundational systems in. That's what I'm talking about. We have, for example, the buildings, right? Like the trenches and the bunkers. That is a foundation. It's a whole system for building new structures. And we have a lot more work to do on buildings. So it's certainly not. So when you say you're worried that have everything done, that's not. It's not a lot of work for us to add new structures or new buildings. That's easy. What's coming in this next update is what I expect to be is the last foundational system, the last the last pipeline that we can put in that will hopefully last us post 1.0 and beyond. And I think I should have been also that it doesn't mean that we will never add new foundational systems into the game, but they'll be done in more larger patches.
My concern was more with revisions, not with foundational systems, because like the way your comment was worded didn't imply that you wouldn't be making more foundational systems for like future content. It implied more that you wouldn't be making any more revisions to already existing foundations, even if they're not very good. Like the number one thing that springs to mind, this will be like the last thing, is the tech system. Many people have said stuff about it. Many people talk about asymmetry and like all this jazz. And then a lot of people, like some people have pointed out, it all comes back to like the tech tree, not just like the asymmetry, because the asymmetry isn't like a thing that takes a ton of time to balance. It's a thing that'll probably inevitably just constantly be shuffled around for the sake of balance. But I think ultimately most people are really angry about like the current tech system, myself included, because it's incredibly grindy. And that was one of the things that, like, I remember Mark, I think, said that you guys tried to avoid, but it ended up being like the case where you have to specifically grind for tech, and it just trying to make proto kits and just like trying to tech farm, it just feels fucking impossible unless you're dedicated solely to that. And that just kind of feels yucky as someone that does a decent amount of logi occasionally.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Lek, thank you. Lek, the reason why people gear up for when you come on the show is not because we hate you. I don't hate you, at least.
Hey! Don't lie. We've all seen the tapes back from fucking.
The reason that's Mari. The reason why is because you bring big, weighty topics. And they're huge, and we can barely get even more than one in, just because I could go on for hours about them. So you know what, Lek? Thank you once again.
It's good for my voice that you shut me down here, because I'm starting to the cider ain't helping me much.
Yeah,
that's my throat.
That's my job. Is to keep us on track. Hey, Lek, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
That's Mari.
Thank you for having
me. You packed the buck. Pass the buck.
It is. It absolutely is. All right, coming up next, we've got.
There's a news flash here.
Yeah.
This is a news show. The Prometheans finally went down. There was a beach landing that's been going on throughout this whole show. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but a beach landing went on, and Prometheans has been fighting for the last like 3 hours. It's been a really cool fight.
I got a couple DMs on that too.
Nice.
I can't divulge. But yeah,
I've been watching it from afar. Yeah, it's been a pretty big fight, all things considered. All right, well, hey everybody, we got Raid in here. I have a couple quick questions, and then Strange has a bigger question for you, and I'm going to start with the shorter ones first. First is actually a comment. I'm going to back up what Geoffrey Jennings said a little bit ago about PlanetSide 2. If you want a case study in how game and social politics can be, play some of that. Roll as a platoon leader as a fellow like PlanetSide 2 veteran. Oof. I think that's all I'll say about that. Number 2, this one comes from other people in Raid, but they're in like European time zones, so they can't answer, or they can't ask. Question for KFC: would you consider raising the price of the game at any point, and if that would have a positive impact on the community culture?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So confirmed.
Can you
$60 game. No.
More. Can you elaborate a little bit more than just yeah, sure? Like, I'm curious what the dev perspective on that would be.
I mean, I'm not business side, and I think even the business side would be reluctant to make any promises in this regard because we don't know what's going to happen. But I will say, I recall a conversation with Mark over PAX, so I'm pretty sure this is okay to say because we were talking to other people about this. There's a business model with games that I think is the best for building innovative game designs, and the company that does this best is Klei, as an example. You may notice that Klei releases a lot of games. For those who don't know, Klei is the company that released Oxygen Not Included, Don't Starve, and a number of other games. Okay. So they're a very up and coming indie company. But their philosophy was, I'm sorry if I got this wrong because I'm getting this third hand. But their philosophy is that you should reward the people who come early. Rather than, so the model of the industry lately has been that you get a core group of players and then you build on them, and then at some point you just sell out and you just starting with the microtransactions and start trying to get as much money from those core players as you can. And some people in the industry would call them whales. And the idea is to sort of like buy, like, I don't like it. I don't like this model at all. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that sentiment. Klei says, or Mark says, let's do the opposite. Let's reward the early adopters by having a low price point, because those are the guys that are the most important to the longevity of your game anyway. And then build on it. Build on a game that they will be excited about, and just keep building on it. Just like Klei does with Don't Starve, they're still working on it, and build your audience. Get to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of users who may own the game but not play it regularly, and then slowly but surely, like, the price, you'll notice, goes up. And the expectation here is that over time the game becomes worth more. Like, this isn't. A lot of our players have spent $20 on this game way back when it first came out 4 years ago. It's worth more than $20 now. There's no question about that.
I'd say so. Yeah, I agree.
At least $25.
Exactly. Who knows what the business guys will say? But the ultimate, like, the lesson here should be that those of you who came early and bought into this game, every time you come back, you're going to come back to a bigger and better game, and you deserve that. And we're never going to do microtransactions. We're never going to sell you new DLCs. We're just going to keep building a game, and it's just going to keep getting better, and the price just may keep going up. but then, sooner or later.
Yeah, price will go up for future purchasers, but for people like everyone in this room, we wouldn't have to rebuy it. I don't think that was ever on the table.
Exactly. You bought it once, and that's it. It's yours for life. And our hope is that players will see that. And I felt this way about Squad. I actually missed the boat on Squad. I actually was really excited about it when I first saw it, but I thought, you know what, this isn't worth $20. And then I waited. I was like, you know what, it'll go on sale. It'll be fine. It'll go on sale. But it didn't go on sale. And now it's worth like $50 or $60 on Steam. It's like, that's the right model. And I commend them for keeping to that model. And I think that's what we would aspire to be more like.
I think the phrase they often use is core adopters. And that's what everyone kind of buying into the game is right now. And putting a bigger price on it when it does go full is kind of like saying, hey, this game is worth this value. It's actually worth more now you've put this content in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Right, cool. So that was.
Keep going.
Oh, it's all good. That was one question. I'd love to dive more into like the social aspect of that, but I have like one other one, and then Stranger's a question. So.
Yeah, bug Mark about that one. He could talk to you about that for hours.
Ooh, okay. I'll keep that in mind. All right, so question number 2. Are there any plans to address long-distance travel for field weapons, either towing them, which I know is a question that's come up in the past, and or allowing them to be packaged with damaged armor? And I know that's a question that's come up in the past. So what's the current thoughts on long-distance travel for field weapons after they've already seen combat? Or even before, like in the case of towing.
Yeah, we implemented flatbed trucks for field weapons. Those of you who were around when flatbeds got implemented, you would know that. And the reason we did that was because towing was a technical challenge, like a large technical challenge. I won't go into the details why. I could, and I have in FOD, so if you search my past messages, you might be able to find it. But towing is a technical challenge for us that requires more time, more developer time than we were willing to spend at the time. But that being said, we revamped the entire physics system for vehicles since that time. You guys will all remember, all of you will remember that because it only happened like 6 months ago. So now it's actually probably more feasible now than it ever has been. So I'm not going to say it will never happen, but we are limited on time, so we'll see. A lot of the members of the team are really excited for towing. We just don't think the flatbeds are selling that thematically. But I know your question is more centered around like the current meta, because it is frustrating to have a damaged field weapon and you can't repair, and then you can't bring it back to your base, and that's painful. The reason why that is right now is because when you package something, the way the system works is it doesn't keep track of the health. So if you packaged it and then packaged a damaged vehicle, we would need to keep track of every packaged vehicle's health, and we would need to it's more of a technical challenge. Not to say that that's impossible to fix, but like what happens when you have a damaged vehicle, you package it and then put it into a storage depot and then withdraw it. Right, like that's another layer of complexity on top of that. So that's why you can't package them. But we are going to have to find some way to get them to the repair depot. There's no question about that, because it is extremely frustrating. We fully recognize that.
And there might be softer answers to that than just make it towable or make them packageable anyway. I know myself, I've run into things where, like, if I am fighting in Drowned Vale or Marvin Hollow, for example, with the field weapon, and then I'd have to bring it back to the closest thing, which is a region and a half away, whether I bring that to Deadlands or Endless Shore or either Viper Pit or Shackled Chasm, like, having to walk it with another person all the way back there is, while it can make for a nice warm down from a game session, it's not like that's the only time in which most players would find that like beneficial. They wouldn't exactly find that satisfying. So maybe this is more of a question about map balance. Maybe, to pitch it back to one of the other callers earlier, maybe having a vehicle depot that can be made in a bunker base as part of like the upgrade system, like you can have as part of what do you call it, the command infrastructure, add in a little things that you can make a 2x3 vehicle depot just to repair vehicles, not to make them or anything. Maybe that's a solution. Maybe adding more vehicle factories, or a vehicle factory where you can't make but just repair. I don't know. Maybe there's other soft solutions to that kind of problem.
A repair depot in a town, maybe.
A possibility. Thoughts on any of that, KFC?
Yep, all of that. Honestly, we've talked about all of those things. Definitely within the realm of possibility.
Okay, fair enough. And on that, I'll pitch it over to Strange. Take it away.
Hello. It was just something that kind of occurred to me. I'm aware that feedback is kind of, you can give it in multiple ways, like there's the Discord and Reddit and tickets and various different ways, but it kind of occurred to me that, especially in something like bug reports, there's such an abundance of information. I feel like it's probably at the point where the devs and you guys just look at it and go, how do I sift through this? This is so much information. And I feel like there's got to be, maybe not a better way, but there's got to be a way that you guys can pose questions to us, as we are basically your beta testers, like, and go, hey, we need direct feedback on this feature, or we need bug reports regarding these, potential broken map features. Like, there needs to be a way for you guys to sort of say, hey, this month we're going to be looking into bug fixing this area or this, and can you give us feedback directly? Because otherwise it's such a broad scope of information that I think it feels like things get lost often, and I kind of imagine it must be the same on the other side. Like, what do we do with this?
I think Mark addressed this in the last episode of Zero Dark. Someone specifically brought up the Rainbow Six Siege developers, they had a thing called Operation, I forgot, Health or something like that, Good Health or whatever, where they just, this whole update, we're just focusing on bugs. But then I think Mark kind of addressed that. So, I'll let Max take it.
Yeah, it's yeah. we focus on the bugs on a regular basis. I know it's hard to convince players of that. We try to include all of them in the patch notes, but it's difficult to prove without just feeling it, right?
Sorry, I just want to interject. Sorry, I don't mean it like a I don't feel like things getting fixed. I mean it more like what is useful to hear. Like what if the devs could ask anything, if the devs could go, hey, you guys play our game, we want to hear about this thing or this area or anything. Like I want you guys to ask us questions, if that makes sense.
Yep. We a long time ago we had a we've done a number of strategies for this in the past. We've done roundtables that were typically organized by Casper. We've done closed beta test groups that we specifically used for feedback, and we've even tried feedback threads in the subreddit. What we found through all of these iterations was that let me start by saying they all had their benefits, right? They were all great in some way. But one thing that we found that was a similar vein in all of them that ultimately led to why they were shut down was that we think a lot of players say what they're feeling, but doesn't necessarily reflect what's going on.
Mm-hmm,
and it's sort of like there was an anecdotal article I read, or it might have been a Reddit post, about somebody who said that they were dealing with a game designer or with a feedback tester who came in and said to this Need for Speed dev, the cars are not shiny enough. And so naturally the artists went back and made it shinier, and then he came back and he was like, yeah, there's just something not right. And when he dug deeper into that analogy, or into that feedback, what the artist discovered was that the person who was watching was playing this game thought that the cars felt like they weren't going fast enough, and that he felt that making them shinier would reflect the passing trees more clearly and therefore infer a faster speed onto the car. And so obviously they had to go back and change everything, but that's ultimately what we found with all of the feedback threads, is that players tend to come in with the problem. And there's nothing wrong with that. It does help us see the problems more clearly, but the solutions are not always what they're saying. And when somebody comes in with a problem and the solution isn't what they dream it up to be, and we go and we change something else completely, it actually leads to backlash, or we found that it leads to some backlash, that it's almost like the devs aren't listening to us. We told them that it was this, and then they changed this. And it's difficult for us to make a translation. We can't really go back in and talk to that person and say, well, this is really how we did it, and have this two-way dialogue. It's very difficult to keep up a consistent dialogue, especially when the player base rotates. We're not always talking to the same person from 1 month to the next. So what we do now, to be more positive about this, what we do now is we mostly focus on subreddit threads, on FOD discussions, and the game feedback. Very usually, we'll get pings from people who are very passionate about the game, that are trying their best to be heard. And we do listen to those. Again, it's difficult to convince people of this, but a lot of times we'll just read it and we won't respond to it because of all the reasons I just said. But we do read them. And I think that we have a pretty good handle on what the players think the problems are just from those channels. It may not be perfect feedback, but we are open to individual feedback too. We may not always respond. And that's a big part of the reason why we don't always respond to those threads in Reddit either. It's difficult to have that kind of communication.
For sure, and I think people, it's because it's a game they love and enjoy, that they get passionate about it, and sometimes that comes out in more passionate ways than unnecessarily useful in terms of feedback. And
well, even the really bad stuff is useful feedback. It sucks to say, but it is the truth. It's more a question about how we communicate, less than it is about what is communicated to us. We read most of everything that we can. It's just, and then we infer, right? Like if somebody's complaining that that the colonial vehicles are too strong, we may not nerf colonial vehicles, but we do see that feedback, look for solutions.
Cool. I guess the main thing that I think, for more of a technical than necessarily a balance, because I guess balance gets passed around a lot because it's a big part of the game, but the things that I see getting ignored are not by the devs, but by people giving feedback. Sorry, by players giving feedback. It are the things that are more technical. So people will often put a signpost going, look, there's a hole here on the map, but they won't report it to the devs, and something like that gets missed. And I feel like maybe if the devs if there was some kind of list somewhere or something that people could go, hey, these are important things, please feed them back. Like if you see a hole in the map, or if you see a tree out of place or something like that, here's where you go, and it's especially to the newer players, like here's how you can give this feedback, because it isn't, in my opinion, very clear. Like this far down the line, I know where to go, but as a new player, I couldn't just, like a lot of games, hit F10 and I get a game feedback or something like that, I suppose.
Well, there is that actually in game. If you hit escape, there is a report feature, but it's mostly report player. And I think it actually says report player. I'm not in game at the moment, so I can't remember exactly what it says.
Yep. You can actually report bugs in any way, and I will take them, or rather, the team will take them. You can submit that report. You can message ModMail, or you can DM me a bug, or you can leave it in bug reports. All of them get filtered into the bugs. Mm-hmm. I personally go through all the bug reports in bug report channel. If there is a significant bug with repeatable steps that is sent to me in DMs, I will log bugs for it. And they do. They all get solved. Or they, I like to say they all get solved, but 90% of them get resolved before the next patch. But the hardest part is getting the repeatable steps. The problem with that example you gave with the signpost and the hole in the ground is that it's difficult to reproduce. Sometimes just getting a picture of a hole in the ground is difficult. Like it's actually fine because those ones I can pass to KC. He's got such an intimate knowledge of it, he can fix them. But yeah, having as much reproducible steps is key.
Anyone in IT knows being able to reproduce the problem is step one.
I think maybe a guide or something in the Discord feedback wouldn't go amiss. Just showing, like, please repeat how you can get to this process, how you can repeat it, because I think that's something that's sometimes missed, at least from my passing, glancing knowledge.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Cool. Well, thank you.
I actually want to double down on one of the things Strange pointed out in there, and I guess you touched on KFC. There's a lot of passionate players that will give feedback, and it is effective. It is valuable feedback, even if it is not effective communication. I'm just picking this out. This isn't meant to be any hot topic or something like that. Just a random example. But somebody saying that armor versus armor combat is broken. Devs, please fix it. While that is passionate and maybe correct feedback, it's not exactly effective. So, Max, how would you want to see those kind of questions feedback? So, like, if somebody is listening to this VOD or listening live right now and they have a feedback in their head, what do you think would be a good way for them to phrase that feedback? No matter what channel it goes through, how would you want them to phrase it for it to be more effective? We've talked about reproducibility, but in cases where it's not exactly a bug, it's more like just feedback in general. How would it be best phrased, or how would it best be communicated for the devs?
With a video. I cannot stress this enough. A video is the #1 way to get through to our entire design team. If something is broken, especially for balance, I'll tell you, this is a real story. Somebody told me that the mortar half track was broken like 3 months ago. And I asked him, "Oh, how is it broken?" And he told me it's OP. Like, I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. Right? Like, it's not effective, or it's fine. As feedback, it's fine because I understand, I recognize that there's something wrong with the MHT, and I've heard that echoed by other people that it's OP. I don't know how to fix it from that feedback, but at least it's enough to get me thinking about the MHT and how could it possibly be broken. And so we do definitely go through that process. But what would really have helped is just a quick video or a long form video that was like 2 hours long showing a mortar half track team just blowing through an entire line of defenses. That would have been, what's really compelling about that to me is that it's not just me that you need to convince. I'm one cog in this machine. If we're going to change something in the game, like mortar half tracks for being OP, I need to be able to convince the rest of the team that it's OP, and then we need to work on that together to how we can possibly fix it. So having a video is really important for me to disseminate that, because I can say to Mark or any of the other designers, it's broken because look at this video, look at how they did X, and I think we can fix that by doing Y. Whereas if I just get a message, I can't do anything about that. I could tell Mark that people think it's OP, but it's not going to go anywhere.
Make the case. You got to make the case.
Yep.
And if I could read into the video thing a little bit, like
we'll have to close out with this, but yeah.
Sure. I can absolutely see a video where somebody's saying like, howitzer spam is overpowered. If they could just make 10 howitzers and blow up anything and stuff like that. And they have the video and they see it, and you guys see it, and you're like, well, wait, they have 10 howitzers, but they never built defenses on the west side of it. The opposing faction just never flanked around. Like it's not a factor of this weapon is overpowered. It's a fact that the opposing faction didn't do anything to directly counter 10 howitzers, kind of let it happen. And that's, I think, part of why video is always good, because you can analyze a video in ways that aren't just directly looking at the howitzer. You can say, yes, there are other counters to it. Your team just didn't take those counters, or this is a different strategy that you could have employed that could have mitigated that problem. So it's not like video isn't always for the direct balance, but it could also, point to the other factors that makes it feel like it's overpowered, but it isn't. And that kind of goes back to some of the the feel aspect that you were talking about earlier in Zero Dark.
Absolutely. Yep. All of that. It doesn't have to be a video either. If you don't have the capacity to produce a video and publish it to YouTube, that's totally fine too. If you write out a form, write out a feedback thread, and have a really cool idea, you really want me to see it, and it's well formatted and concise and not 500 pages long, I will probably read it. Just send it to me in DMs. I can't recall a time somebody has sent me a document that was well formatted that I didn't read. I just like reading them. Sometimes they go in the community highlights. So,
all right. Hey, Rhodes Strange.
On that note, I'll be yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. Coming up next, we have a written question. KFC, how many more do you have in you?
Let's go till 7. So I've got 7 more minutes. So probably one more.
So 7 more minutes. Okay, cool. You know what? So, Pipe XD, you had a real written question, but that one apparently seems to be more towards me, and I actually have more on that. So we'll actually skip that one for now, because I think I can address that one better. But we'll go to Bob Semple, talking about trench stuff, which may not be 7 minutes. But regardless, Bob Semple, welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you? KFC. I gotta ask, when was the last time you had KFC?
Probably not that long ago. They had a recent chicken sandwich, I think like 3 months ago. Had to go and try it out.
Anyway, can I talk about trenches, because I like to dig holes in the ground?
Go for it.
Sure.
I like trenches, and one thing I find a pain in the ass is I know it's been over, but like tier 2, like I think there's got to be something a bit more for someone to upgrade a trench to tier 2, because like, you know, you've got a tier 1, you can redig them for free, but like then you go to tier 2 and they're a bit stronger, yeah, but a tank can still run them over, and then it costs BMATs to repair. But at least tier 3, they're worthwhile because they can kind of act as like a moat, like around your bunker base, because like tanks can't go over them. But I just think they need to add, like, I don't know what it is, but just think of something that can bridge a gap between making something from tier 1 to tier 2 worthwhile. That's all I've got to think about it.
Yeah, I think that right now what I really hate is the current just running over the mechanics.
Yeah, that makes it a bit of a pain.
Yeah, well, that's kind of dumb too.
Yeah, you can make sense when you've got like a 2-ton tank going over a bit of sticks and dirt. Like, that makes sense. Like a 10-ton tank going over a
Even then, I don't think tanks destroy trenches by running them over. They would just literally go over them, right?
They would go over them, but like, it depends how wide the trench, how wide a trench is. Like, say if it was a connector and it was like really thin, like, and there was enough weight, it would just kind of go inwards. But if it was a wide boy, you can kind of go over it. And yeah, one thing I have always found a pain ever since the trench update is you can't really fire deployable weapons like the AT rifle or the machine gun from in the trench. Have any of you played the game Men of War?
I should. I do not. I've watched a lot of videos on it, but I really need to. I'm afraid if I do play it, I won't have time to do anything else.
It's really fun with friends.
Those mods look insane.
Including
the Foxhole mod.
I actually need to finish that mod. I kind of started it and I never really finished it.
Wait, you make it?
Well, I Panzer Keyhole or Panzer 4 with Keyhole turtleneck. Sorry, I forgot. Anyway, whatever. They started it, but they couldn't get the Blender models in. But So I went around the Men of War modding community because I had links then, but I managed to do the Jade Cove ramp, and I made that in the editor. It's a very small map, very basic test, but I got the colonials, I got the wardens down. I made the weapons to have the correct stuff, I got the right people, but I just never really made it into a mission or published it. I mean, I probably could. If I remembered how to make a mission, I could probably make a mission. But, yeah. Anyway, back to what I was on about. Anyway, in the Men of War, there's like a trench, alright? And then in the middle of the trench piece, there's like a little semicircle. And that part is just a little bit raised. And that's where you put like your MG guys, because they can crouch instead of standing up, so they can fire better. Or whatever. So it's basically a straight trench, and then a half little semicircle in the middle of it, like that's going outwards. And you would be able to deploy your AT rifle or MG there. I just think that would be like a good idea. So you'll be able to fire deployables from inside the trench.
Wouldn't it just be better if you could just deploy them without crouching, though? Like just standing up?
Yeah, but I thought they would have added that by now.
Yeah, I think it's doable. I think it's...
Yeah. I don't know anything about game design or how to make games. Last time I did, I had to...
You don't need to.
Ended up horribly.
In terms of this more specific suggestion.
Yeah, it should be easy enough to get to fire deployable from a trench part.
I appreciate you trying to think around the problem, though, because
Yeah.
I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, let's just create a trench. Like, we could definitely make it work in a much simpler way than actually doing any implementation. But I think if we're gonna do trenches, you should really be able to stand up and fire a machine gun. That's what they were built for.
Yeah, just like, and not, or even just something simple like that, just firing out, and yeah. But it's, I definitely like over time the new trench pieces, like that connector. But I feel like, because one thing I am disappointed at, because I liked trench, I still think what war was it when trenches were first added? What war was that?
Oh goodness,
I have no idea.
Don't know.
Well, anyway, whatever that fit, somewhere in the 50s, whatever all that. That was my favorite.
I think it was like a year ago.
Yeah, it was my favorite war. It was hectic because everyone spammed the shit out of trenches, and it was so god awful. It was beautiful because everyone spammed them. No one really knew how to use them properly. So everyone just kind of spammed them and just saw what happened, and it turned into a mess. But I loved it because it was just fun. And rifle garrisons weren't really like the meta then, because we still had gun nests and stuff, so people just dug trenches. But yeah, I just like, because now it's really other people. I still like using trenches, just like one straight trench, one bunker on each end to shoot out of it. No rifle garrisons. I think it's fun, but then people like other players who don't like trenches, dislike them, just run them over with a truck. And then you're just like, that sucks. Because, yeah, I really think there needs to be a way to improve trenches. Because everyone is just using rifle garrisons and connectors. And which is a shame, because I do think trenches should have a place somewhere in Foxhole. But right now, they're just mostly for connecting bunkers, so there can be rifle garrisons. But yeah.
Yeah, a lot more work needs to be done on trenches. No denying.
Yeah. Yeah, but they are fun. They are fun now and then.
Yeah, for all that they are kind of useless in defenses, it's almost like there's two mentalities of players when they're building these bases. There's the combat player who will build a trench to be a fighting position, and it is a strong fighting position. If you're in a trench, it's pretty hard to get shot. But then there's the other player's mentality who's just trying to build a defensive line, and they see trenches as an inconvenience and a vulnerability. They just want it to connect.
There are streams.
We need to fix that.
There are whole streams of people who will, they will make bunker bases like a tiny sliver of connection. Connective trench, and then they'll take a truck and run over the connective trench so that only the bunker bases remain. I've seen people do that for literal hours, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, because I actually made a clan in 28th Park, and that clan revolves around trenches, bunker bases, and we've kind of tried to bridge between. Yeah, we make a bunker base, and we make it. Sometimes it's used, sometimes it's not. Right now we have one, but that's out of. If we did make a storm cannon, it wouldn't be able to hit much, because it's too far out of the way. I'm not going to disclose where it is. I don't want no smelly collies going there. But yeah, I tried to put some trenches, because I think 2 wars ago, 1 war ago, we had Sanctum, and that was the last place in Marvin High to be killed. I don't even think it was killed until the end of the war, because it held out that long, and it was that much of a thumb in the collies' arse. They just didn't attack it. They just went around it. Because, But anyway, sometimes we just go to a front and then dig trenches and stuff. And then sometimes it's like, I know, because we fairly know how to make a decent trench. Don't want to toot my own horn, but we know how to make a fairly defensible trench, and we're just like, if we don't expand it, it should be fine. But then someone who doesn't know anything about trenches either expands it, and then the collies get in, or some general just gets in a truck and runs it over. Which is a bit of a pain. But yeah.
Yeah. We need to get rid of the destructible trenches as well. I think it was.
I also think there still needs to be a tool to remove a trench, but not with vehicles. I don't think vehicles is the answer, because
it's weaponized. It's weaponized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to give you some context, the reason why that is because when we first implemented trenches, the original go-to was no vehicle can run over a trench because it was the easiest way to implement. We were running really low on time for the implementation of trenches, and members of the team, parts of the design team, were upset that like tanks couldn't run over trenches because that's ridiculous. That's what they were designed to do. So, but there were other design problems. Those who remember will remember the pipelines that used to be required to power defenses. So
I don't actually remember much of the original trenches, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay.
So.
Well, in the original trench system, you required pipelines from engine rooms to be able to power your defenses, which was since taken out. So the problem was that if we just allowed vehicles to destroy trenches, just blow them up by running them over, then griefers would be able to just, oh, there's a whole defensive line connected to this engine room, run over it, and now it's gone. And now your whole defensive line is disconnected because somebody destroyed it. And you have to rebuild the whole thing just to get your defenses connected again. So the compromise was, okay, when you run over the trenches, they become, and that way it can stay connected even if the trench is blown up. And that worked for a time, but it's not, it's no longer relevant. And I think that we just need to revisit trenches altogether, and that's just where we're sitting right now.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's definitely.
Huh.
Yeah.
I did not know that was the actual intent.
Neither did I. That's the more you know. The more you know.
I think a lot of people just assumed that was actually part of the intended meta. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. It makes sense because makes sense.
Right, Bob, did you have anything else?
Not that I can think of, no. Thanks for letting me in.
Yeah. Are you enjoying? Have you had a chance to use the new relic tank that looks like a box?
To be honest, I feel very guilty because I hoarded 500 relic mats to make 2 tanks.
But I
feel extremely guilty, but I did use them. I used them to the last man.
All right. Well, that's
We used them yesterday, and we. One dart. Actually, I had one like 10 minutes ago, or half an hour ago, and I had it in front of the abandoned ward town hall, and a collie managed to sneak into it and drive it off, and I'm like, well then that's... I don't know how he got into the middle of abandoned ward of AI, but he did. That colonial. I don't know. He must have had a lot of smoke grenades, but he found a way. But I had another one, so no worries. But yeah, I have been using them, and holy shit, they are chunky. Like, we literally just not suicide, but we rushed a bridge like 10 minutes ago. I'm supposed to be a commander of a storm tank right now. I'm actually in one.
I can just imagine, I'm imagining you're just there calling into a radio show.
So I just said to my tank crew, like, if I'm quiet, I'm in the PressCorps radio thing, and they're just like, what? I'm like, I'm gonna be quiet. Command yourself, so you don't need me. So I just got killed, so I've just been shooting them with a pistol. But the relic tanks, they are definitely chonky. They got some good armor. A lot more durable than a light tank, so they fit my tactics well. Just charge into them and see what happens. No care if the tank dies. That's why I don't load a lot of ammo. And that's why I don't load a lot of ammo in case they do die. I don't give them. Just ram into them and see what happens. I mean, they have the little rams on the front of the tank for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for letting me on the show. Have a nice...
No.
What time is it in America? I don't know. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon for me. So, yeah, have a nice time in America Town or Canada.
America. All right, hey,
Thank
Bob.
you. We will.
Thank you.
America Town. Yeah.
Have a good one.
Bye. Have a chicken.
That was perfect. Max, thank you so much. Thank you for stopping by as always.
No, thanks for having me on the show.
Actually, quick question. Yeah, I usually say at the end, like, apologies to all of our listeners who are on the other parts of the world that aren't the Americas. But having said that, would you be open? Nothing concrete right now, but just positing the question, which I probably could just DM. But would it be possible to have a developer or just even just yourself to come onto the show, like a different scheduled show, like maybe possibly during the morning, or like, so this would probably be during work hours or the weekend. Is that in the realm of possibility?
That would be really great. Yeah, I would love that. I think that's one of the biggest barriers. It's why you always get me and Mark, is because, Mark is the designer of the game, so or the CEO of the company, so he's okay to come in after hours. But right now, it's like 10 o'clock for him.
Right.
It's 7 o'clock for me. But the rest of the team, it's really late for them. They're all on the East Coast. So if it's earlier in the day, I think we'll have a much better shot at getting some other people on the show.
Okay,
and I'd love to have like Matt or the other artists on here, or even a programmer, because you guys had a lot of programming questions today, so that would be awesome.
Well, so there's two concerns. Is that one of which I'm right now, but one of them is that I don't want to interrupt you guys in the middle of your work. At the same time, I also don't want to jam 2 more hours, which is what we do every single show, into your day, as opposed to getting rest and not thinking about work. But here we are.
Yeah, no way. Interrupt our work, please.
Okay. Well, we'll see. So if 1.0 gets delayed, then it's completely my fault. Got it. Okay. I'll give you the out.
Absolutely. Everybody can blame you.
Okay, Max. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, actually, I did want to mention, before I close the show, I did want to mention, or rather, address the question here from Philippe. Nope. FELIPIPEXD. You had a written question there that was more so addressed to me, I believe. Need to ask a suggestion for spending boredom and driving. Please put a radio which you can on and off with themed music and lore flavor. I'm sure you guys at PressCorps can collab and start making the game more tasteful and immersive. I'm sure Matt would love it. And you can add Warden Colonial Propaganda. I don't know if I can add Warden Colonial Propaganda. In terms of an in-game radio, I don't think that's something that I'm pretty confident to say that would not be something before 1.0. But it has been posited before to the devs, both in front of me and individually on their own as well. I would say stick around. Stick around, because I don't think we can say anything about an in-game radio where you fit like say Grand Theft Auto, where you have a actual in-game radio which you can switch on and off whenever you get into a car. I don't think we can. I don't think that's anything the devs can do anytime soon. Maybe they can and they haven't told me. I don't know. But we do have something in the works in terms of PressCorps to make the radio that we do provide when we don't have power outages in my home. In terms of making things a little more interactive and a little more immersive for the people, as opposed to an automated radio station all the time, 100% of the time. And it's not, once you get over the music, it's like, well, okay, cool, but what is this other than just another playlist to listen to? I do know I've been meaning to update the radio more. I know that I've been meaning to do more kind of lore flavor things just on my own. A lot of things in the back end, but there's one big thing that we've been working on in the PressCorps. What it is, you'll have to wait and see, because we need to make sure that we can do it and that it's working and it's functioning before we can promise anything. So hopefully we can get it in by the end of January. We will see. Keep you on edge. We'll keep you on edge. But for now, and again, sorry for being vague, but that's all we got for you. But regardless, thank you so much to all of our callers. We'll see if maybe we can get something going for our folks on the other parts of the world that aren't the Americas. Give you something so that you can be part of this conversation. It's always a damn shame that we can't include people from Europe, people from Australia and Asia, just because it's weird times for them. I get it, but again, maybe that big thing we're working on can help with that. We'll have to wait and see. But regardless, thank you so much to all of our callers. And for the PressCorps, I'm Geoffrey Jennings. We'll see you next time on Zero Dark PressCorps. Good night, good fight. And actually, you know what? We will not. I have to do things on my end. So, we will not go back to radio. I'll end the stream, but we'll see what we can do, hopefully, for this weekend. Thank you so much.
The PressCorps is a non-profit creative collective of artists, reporters, and players from the MMO video game Foxhole by Clapfoot. Our mission is to engross our audience in and amplify the stories of this unique war ecosystem. The PressCorps was founded in early 2018 by former PlanetSide 2 Radio Free Araxis host, Captain in Arms. It is a separate community entity and is in no way representative of Clapfoot. For more info, visit the PressCorps Discord through the link below.